Listening.
Well, now we can officially start the show because uh, Mrs. Victor has said that we could go ahead. I've named our person, Mrs. Victor.
Well, I always call her a staff announcer because it's such a rare position anymore. But thank you, Mrs. Victor, and all their
I
little
don't know
RCAs
if,
running around the office.
I don't know that anybody has a staff announcer anymore. It's in radio. I mean, certainly in television, they still have.
Well, first you have to have a staff.
Yeah. But the great names of staff announcers like Johnny Olson and what was
Ed
it?
McMahon,
Yes, Rod Roddy
Biff
and
Jiggerman,
uh, which one?
Biff Jiggerman. He
I
was
remember Biff. Biff started
he,
out, and of course, started out at the Mutual Network. It was
and
a mutual agreement. You
he
work,
found a home. He
and we
found a
will
home in
pay.
Kansas. No, isn't it? He found a home in Kansas City, or I'm sorry, Kansas City, and he won't leave.
And of course, there was our favorite and the dean of all staff announcers, the late great Harry Von Zell.
Von Zell. I knew you were going to say that. Harry Von Zell, who was the father of one of the most hilarious and improbable on-air gaffes and bloopers. He called the president of the United States, whose name was Herbert Hoover, Herbert Heaver, on live network radio. That was a good one. That's when the mistake you made went coast to coast.
Well, now, first of all, if you make a mistake like that, it probably doesn't even get on the air. But number two, if it is a grievous enough mistake, it doesn't only go coast to coast; it goes around the world because of the internet now.
And
People
of course, no one cares if you make fun of Herbert Hoover because he turned out to be one of the worst presidents we've had. And we've had our list of worst presidents grows like every 5 years. We add someone to it. And I don't know if you saw Maggie Haberman's new book called Confidence Man: The Making of Donald Trump and the Breaking of America, where his plan to remain in the office was simply just not leave the White House. He was just going to barricade himself and his loved ones in the White House and call the Marines to protect him. Don't let anybody in, don't let anybody out. That's Donald Trump, your president speaking. But Mr. Trump, you're not the president. I say I'm the president. Now lock these doors and let's have some security.
well, it could have. That was another chance that you had to get rid of Trump. You just could have walked in there and said, "Sorry, Mr. President, but we have to evacuate you."
I'm sending the Marines.
I'm sure you got 5 or 6 people outside that would have done it for free.
Yeah, and but you'd also have the Secret Service working in deep into Trump land with true believers every 5 feet, wearing dark suits.
Are we sure that they would have, at that point, worked against the country or for the country?
Against, I think that what they would have done was actually they would have drawn down on the Marines. They would have defended to his an attack like that as if it were an offense against the president.
Well, it does bring up an interesting point, Michael. At that 12 o'clock, 12:01 mark on January 20th, even though the president that was president at 12 o'clock is legally no longer president, who is the Marine Corps? Who are our nation's armed forces at that point if another president hasn't been sworn in yet?
Doesn't matter.
Who is the Marines obligated to, or who would they follow?
Commander in chief passes, just like when the Queen died and the King became president. King became king. He didn't have to do anything; it just happened. Same thing. When the peaceful transfer of power is not required for anyone to do anything. All the formalities take place, and that's part of the legality of it. But it happens immediately. You can't just be. I'm going to be president for another extra half hour because the other guy's in the toilet. And we can't get him out. When we do, we'll swear him in, and then he can be president. But I'm still president. Nope, sorry. The clock has ticked past that time. You are not president.
And would the people that would be loyal to the outgoing president allow the people that are loyal to the incoming president access, ability, or could you potentially, and I think this is probably as close as we've ever come to it, have an ugly scene where people are saying, wait a minute, as of 12:01, your time has expired. We're going to tow your cars out of the driveway. You got 5 minutes. What do you need, an extra 10 minutes? Take it, but get the cars out of the driveway. We have new cars we want to park there.
No, you can't just say we believe he's president. That's strictly Trump land. That's where what you believe might have happened or what you
Right,
believe
right,
did
right.
happen is more important than what actually happened. And when you have these Secret Service believing in their Fuhrer, then you've got a problem, and they are part of the problem, and that's going to have to be cleaned up.
So so in other words, you without a doubt have a situation where if the Marines were called at that point, they would be on the side of Joseph Robinette Biden as
He wouldn't even
opposed
have
to
to.
Donald John Trump.
He wouldn't even have to show up. He could just give the order. In fact, he probably wouldn't even have to. I would think that the commandant, who was ever the commander of the Marines for security at the White House, would say, "Get him out and get her out too."
Chief of staff, I guess that would be right at that point.
No, it would have to be a military commander. The Marines don't take orders from
Yeah.
a chief of staff.
So
They might get memos from them, suggestions, scheduling, things of that sort. But a
right.
Marine doesn't take an order from a guy in a suit.
So you really have, well, on many levels, what turns into an embarrassing situation for many people.
I wonder who talked him out of it. How did they pass that up? That was based on all the other ideas they had, at least as good as those. Like the phony electors, that didn't get them very far.
Well, I would think that their whole idea of what they wanted to do certainly took a hit on January 6th.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it would show, and I haven't read the book or anything, but I think just common sense would show you that this is why Mike Pence was so important to these people. Because if Mike Pence somehow cast doubt on the election,
Just doubt. That's all they wanted.
just
Doubt.
doubt. They don't care if he says yes or no. They just want doubt. They want him to say, well, we're not 100% sure here. So let's do it tomorrow.
Or the next day if we can't get it done in one day. Or
Right.
next week. We could take a week, take a couple weeks, take a month, take the first year, figure it out.
Yeah. And that puts the whole system into doubt. It puts everything that's alongside the Constitution or indicated in the Constitution in a situation where it says this is not 100%. And then gets so many people, especially if you're a little weak of mind, to say maybe this election isn't legit.
In fact,
Maybe this Donald J. Trump guy out of New York has a legitimate beef.
maybe the Lord did send him to lead us into the promised land. Although
Well, nobody in New York would say that,
you'd
but
have to ask yourself, what kind of God would send Donald Trump as his messenger? Who are you going to send? Well, most of my messengers are out right now delivering messages. Who's this guy? That's Donald Trump. Can he deliver a message? Oh yeah.
and it
Oh yeah.
yeah, it tells you something that the people who are selling God on a daily basis through your radio, television, and or internet screen
I figured this is a good product. This Trump
are
product's
saying
a
this
good
is
product.
yeah. I mean, really, when you come down to it, Michael, the Trump thing is only a different manifestation of what Oral Roberts and uh, the guy Schuler down in Garden Grove there, and even to a certain extent, the guy, who you call it, Reverend Ike, has been selling for years. Doesn't matter if you're black or white. Doesn't
You're
matter
not, by
if
the
you're
way,
Catholic or whatever. They're all selling
Schu-
the same thing.
down in Garden Grove, Schubert's dead, and the Roman Catholic Church bought his Crystal Cathedral, if you want to believe that.
Oh, I
They're
believe it. Yeah.
And as for Reverend Ike, are you besmirching the Mikey and Vinnie prayer cloth? Because we came up with that idea and Reverend Ike just ran with it.
I'm not besmirching it. I'm just saying, if in 1995 we'll send you two.
Two prayer cloths. One you can be washing while you're using the other one to keep the radio from overheating.
Double your prayers, double your fun. It's the Mikey and Vinny prayer cloth on the run.
For one or for two.
I'm love overdue. So we're not seeing out of Trump, I think, anything that's new. We're not seeing like a well-designed scam. We're seeing a scam that people have been trying since the day of 2 bottles for $9.99.
It's such a desperate and silly plan to come up with. And to have his closest advisors like Stephen Miller telling him that he's still God on earth, that he's still incarnate, the leader that they've looked for, that he is, in fact, der Führer. Oh, der Führer. The
Well,
Führer.
what do you need? I mean, what do you need but just a good show, right? A good line, a good tap dance.
We don't want to stay. We're ready to pack up and leave. But until we find out who's really president, how can we leave? We can't. It's our duty to America to stay, make sure that Joe Biden doesn't get in illegally. So we'll do a big count. Can't say exactly how long it'll take or what kind of count it'll be or how we'll count. And we'll just stay here. Even some of my kids can stay here. We'll hold the fort and not let anybody in until we know who's president for sure.
It reminds me. It reminds me of something my dad told me many years ago. And my dad used to have a calendar that was distributed by the McCord Radiator Company on 49th Street, Northern Boulevard in Woodside. And the McCord Radiator Company would put out every year this calendar of women scantily dressed,
Changing your oil.
changing oil or doing mechanical functions on the car. And every year my father would post this thing up in the office, and somebody would come in and they would have some kind of problem with their car, and invariably, because 99.9% of the customers were men, they would get fixated on this calendar and just look at it. And while they were looking at the shiny object, my father was inside painting their starter, or doing something nefarious to
I like a freshly painted starter.
raise their bill.
What color did he paint it? Fire engine red?
And no, it's always black or silver. And the point is that if you put a shiny object in front of somebody, they're not going to pay attention to what you're doing. They're going to pay attention to the shiny object in 99.9% of the cases. And, it had nothing to do with, and it was always extremely funny to me that my father did not do this to women.
Ah.
There was no man calendar in there. There was no equivalent. The rule was you don't do that to women.
Uh-huh.
Now, maybe my father was onto something about that you don't attack people or hurt people that you perceive to be weaker than you.
Well, didn't the women have to go into the same office that the men went into?
Well, he had it kind of in this inner kind of office by the men's room.
Okay.
So you could go in this particular station that my dad had at the time, that I remember this, the women's room was actually outside and around the side of the building. The men's room was inside. Reason for that really being that the employees had to use it, and he didn't have any women employees, save for one. And so it was easier for those people, for men to see it, because he certainly didn't want to offend or piss off or make a woman feel uncomfortable.
Well, now, of course, he could have the calendar for the local firemen for the women.
Yeah, yeah. I always thought it was a real interesting study in psychology, and maybe why I understand the Trump thing a bit, because really it's the same principle. You know, distract them, lie to them, show them something different, and you'll be able to take them as far as you want on your little carriage, as far as
And
you want
Trump
to take them.
and Vinnie, Trump has learned that the people who are willing to follow him can be senators, can be representatives, can be judges like Eileen Cannon, can be men of God who profess to be men of God, but are actually now men of politics and men of hate and men of uh, white supremacy. This whole idea of a strange carnival of followers that all have different reasons to believe that Donald Trump is their man and will believe anything that he says and act on his behalf and act against the organization of the government and see conspiracies everywhere and have managed to fill themselves with hate and doubt and chaos and violence.
Well, I think one of the things you learn, Michael, if you go back through the short history of the immigrants, or business people who come from nothing and make something out of themselves, it feels better when you take on a guy who's richer, smarter, whatever it is, and beat him.
Yeah.
It's no fun if you take on the guy from the next door or down the block, but if you get the lawyer who thinks he knows everything about law and this and that, and you beat the lawyer, you really feel like you've accomplished something.
If now we got to beat Dr. Oz, just like Washington State beat Wisconsin.
Yeah, well, Dr. Oz is one of those guys. He is
Yeah.
that probably the typical guy that my father would have relished selling a phony starter to. I hate to say this, but he is exactly the mark, the person, because I'm sure that Dr. Oz goes in there and knows everything about everything. And you can't tell him anything. He knows.
He knows.
He's smarter than you, and he's not afraid to let you know it.
And he's got a very short last name that a lot of people can remember, but it's not helping that they can remember his name. Turns
Yeah,
out that
well,
Thurman is easier to remember.
whatever happened, I thought, Michael, and maybe this has changed, and maybe he's used it to his advantage in some ways, but I thought because his name was not is it legally Oz, or is it still Oz Monacananian or something like that that he originally had? I mean, he originally had a long name and
But
changed it.
in Slovakia, you can make up your own last name.
Okay, because I thought at some point that when you ran on a ballot, that you, like, I couldn't run as Vinnie Riccici on a ballot. I would have to run as Vincent Riccici.
I see.
And I remember that, I believe, when I
And
first.
your middle initial would have to be there too, I think.
Um, Yeah, I don't know. I didn't use my middle initial when I ran the first time, but they told me you couldn't use a nickname. You could put it in quotes
Ha.
somewhere. If you could prove that it was a name that you were usually and customarily known by, and maybe that's how he gets away with it. But I thought that you had to have your legal name on that ballot.
And it'd be nice if you lived in the state that you were running for Senate, but
Now,
that's
Mikey,
not
there's a lot. You
material.
see, now you're talking about a lot of different rules.
Too many rules. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, now I'm starting to. Now you're starting to bug me because you're coming up with all these rules that are, that you want to apply to me, and I think you're doing it out of prejudice.
And why would anyone want all these rules involved in an election? That would be so simple. You just have your guy declare who wins.
Yeah, just have Oz walk up there and say, "I
I
won."
won. I won, everybody.
I'm going to save the state and everybody in it a whole lot of money by
Except the
just
Fetterman,
saying,
except the
"I
Fetterman
won."
family. The Fetterman family pays full freight, though.
Well, I have a lot of letters in their name.
They had way too many. It could have been so. It could have been FT, fifth fit, but
Right? They
no.
could have gone with John Fett.
In fact, that's a popular last name in Slovakia. Fit, FT.
Fett. Well, yes, but that's because many people wear a fez.
Okay, you got me there. But Fez is one thing, and Fet very close to Fez, but the two could be confused.
I mean, I think if you say there goes Mr. Fett with his fez, that you're
You've
going to
said
get
you've said something.
a response from people. People are going to look at you and say, "There's a man of wealth and taste."
And because Slovakia is flat and square, there's a lot of winds that blow. It's like Kansas in terms of the weather, except the winds blow two ways at once, from east to west and from west to east, and they meet somewhere in the middle, which is something you have to see before you leave Slovakia, where the winds meet, it's called.
Yeah, the problem is the only way you can see the winds meet is by flying over it, and we know what happens when you fly over things where the winds meet.
Then that's another reason why there are no international flights to land in or fly over Slovakia. You got to
Right,
take the
right.
training.
Have to land in one of the adjacent countries. Get your passport validated by a belly lander,
Yeah,
which is kind of the same thing as a lap lander, except that they use the belly instead of the lap.
they start with a lap, but they work their way to the belly.
Work their way to the belly. They found that over years the belly is much more warm and exciting and kind of welcoming.
And it is a form of hello, but it's also a form of exchange of currency. So get your dollars and have them, or a five if you're in the mood, if you're traveling with American money. I can't recall what the currency is in Slovakia.
Oh,
Dung?
the
I thought that was the capital.
no, 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 no. The currency is the.
Okay.
As a matter
Well,
of fact,
I
one of
want a
the
lot of those.
Spolpakians do in the morning, which is a unique tradition in this country, unlike any other country. People gather up around the banks
Yes.
and they listen to the morning counting of the money.
All the money?
All the money. You have to count it every day in Slovakia. Make sure that nobody stuck one in their pocket. So starting
Oh,
around 5:30 a.m., you start to hear in one corner of the capital, and then you go to another corner of the capital, you hear, yeah, 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 yeah. You know,
my cats make that noise just before they offer up a hairball. Have you
well,
ever
that's
noticed that?
exactly what they call it, Moneyball.
So they're counting. When a cat counts, does that count as a count?
They have an official that's in charge of registering all of this.
And is his name Roger?
No, it's count.
Oh, Count, of course, Count Roger.
Count, Roger. They tried to go with Prince Roger, but heard it was taken already.
Plus, their royal family is long gone. Remember, they put them down a well or something, or have I got that wrong?
They're still around. They just
But
they're not as ostentatious about it as like the British royals are.
what's that big gas station shower uh, edifice that's out in the middle of the desert?
Well, you got a few of them. You got the newest competitor out there, which is based in Texas, is Bucky's.
Bucky's is the one I think.
Buccees. They have a little bear for
And you can book a shave in a shower, buy a new t-shirt, and be on your way.
shave, shower, buy a new shirt, grab a new hooker,
It's the Spopakia way.
and be off on your way. Um, yeah, I think it's like the whole package is like $39.95 or something like that.
And I can't remember what the one here out in the desert is. The ranch. That's not right. Robbie's.
Rotten Robbie's.
There's another one though. Rotten Robbie is not got the best prices. The one out
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's a
halfway to
few of
Palm
them out in the
Springs.
desert. Rotten Robbie and Terrible Herbst, and which I always liked. I always thought that was the best one. I don't know why I thought that name was so cool, but I always thought that Terrible Herbst was because it really did. You know, Rotten Robbie at least
It was musical.
flowed.
Yeah.
Terrible Herbst
What a
didn't flow. It
mouthful.
didn't do anything. It just was a name.
And his real first name was not terrible. It was Larry. Everybody knew that.
Yeah, there was Larry Schwartz. Anyway, the now you may be thinking of Loves.
Loves.
Loves,
My
they have a little racket going, you know, not a racket. I mean, I guess they have gas stations. Then there was Stuckey's, which was, I think, founded in the 40s, where you could pick up gas, a pecan roll, a big iced Pepsi, a shower, and a case of the clap. The big five, right there at any Stuckey's in America.
and you haven't even made a U-turn yet. This is America, ladies and gentlemen, and this is what Spopakia aspires to.
They had them on one side of the exit. They didn't build them on, you know, one here and one there. It was one, and you pulled in, and they had that kind of aquamarine roof,
Oh yeah.
and they sold gasoline, obviously. They had a hot dog stand in there. They made great hot dogs,
Croilers and muffins.
souvenirs.
Oh yeah,
You know,
magnets.
tchotchkes. They had, if you wanted a little jewel box with "Spank Me Hard, Texas" on it, they had that. Obviously, road maps that they gave away for free, and the you know what was they had a drink, and I'm trying to remember if it was the lemonade or you know, it was they had lemonade. And they had some other orange type drink that was in that clear machine that used to spray it up on the.
Oh God, yes.
Remember that? You know,
Yeah.
and every once in a while, the, the
It
the
would get
kid
loose.
the kid that they hired would forget to put the top on after he was filling the machine.
Is made for this kid. His name was Larry too.
Yeah,
And what a mess he was.
and you could then buy at 25% off all of the stuff that got sprayed with the syrupy stuff that was in that machine.
Is this a clean drink or is this a floor drink? That's still a floor drink, but it's $1 off. I'll take
Dollar
it.
off, I'll take it. Because, you know, traveling in those days was a different experience than it was these days.
I think I still have an American flag shirt. I bought him one of those. It was halfway to Vegas, and I don't know what in the world we were doing in it, but it was a bright blue shirt with eagles and flags on the breasts right here. and it was almost a cowboy shirt for a country band on stage, almost a patriotic shirt for any occasion, and almost just the ugliest thing you ever saw. And I think I still have it in my closet. I never wore it.
I, those places were, Michael, the only thing that was consistent about America in the 60s and the 70s. I mean, nowadays you drive across country and there's a McDonald's at every exit or a Burger King or this, that, an Office Depot, this place or that place. It all looks the same.
Right.
Strip malls everywhere. The LA riots after Rodney King did more for helping out strip malls than anything because people looked at that and said, yeah, I could build that here too.
And every strip mall in the world has a donut shop, tropical fish, uh, big men and tall men shop, gasoline, 7-Eleven,
And in those
maybe room
days,
for one Mexican takeout.
you got off of an exit and it could be in the middle of the desert, but mostly there were like a Stuckey's,
Yeah.
and you pulled into the Stuckey's, you filled up. If it was early in the morning, you go in the bathroom and wash your face and shave or whatever you were going to do that day, and then you got on your merry way, or you slept. You couldn't sleep in Stuckey's. They would ask you, don't sleep in Stuckey's, but every Stuckey's had a lot next to it
All right. Sleep over there.
that you could go in and just sleep over there. Nobody will bother you. We keep the lights on so that, the cops don't roust you. Because in those days, the late 60s, early 70s, the cops were fond of, patrolling the streets, and at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, they had nothing to do. They saw your car sitting there with out-of-state plates and your feet sticking out the side window, and it was an invitation for trouble.
And what is the offense for sleeping in your own car in America?
Vagrancy.
Oh, that.
Yeah, if you have no vacancy, then you must qualify for vagrancy.
So a 20 might do it, but a 50 would be more likely the way out of this.
There were some places where certain favors would get you out of a mess.
I can do you a favor. I'll see you that favor and I'll raise you one.
And, the cops were smart enough to know that if you were stoned or if you were, if they just woke you up, that they could pretty much have their way with you. In many of these small towns, that was their excitement.
That's all.
Like the hippies up that are on the Green Tortoise that's parked in the lot next to the Stuckey's.
And they're on the phone to a place called Spopaki, and I don't know what language they're speaking.
Well, there's no phone in those days. You had to come up with the change, or you had to take Greyhound to wherever you were.
What does a person-to-person call from Salina, Kansas to Spopaki cost, you think?
Oh, I don't know, Mikey. Jeez. I mean, I know it used to be, I think, $1.25 in the evening from San Francisco to New York.
For 3 minutes?
Yeah, for 3 minutes, and then you had to start putting the money in. You got blocks of 5 minutes for 50 cents or whatever it was, and you talked until you ran out of change. If there was,
That's sort of like the theme that we're hearing from Seattle Seattle Seahawk fans. They're talking, but they're running out of money to put behind it. Because from what we saw this weekend, some of these new quarterbacks playing for new teams had a rude awakening, and it was and one of them came to the 49ers. One of them came to the Raiders, who had to play the so-called second-rate team in LA, and the Chargers beat the hell out of them.
yeah, and the props to the Steelers though.
Oh
Steelers
yeah, they
said,
had a
you know
fight.
what? We got Mitch Trident Trubisky, and we're going to slip him in there and see what he does.
They fought. They fought like they meant it.
And their defense, um, playing in place of a departed Ben Roethlisberger, um, pulled off a victory.
Wonder where Ben was for the game. Did he come to the game?
I don't know. I haven't really opened up the PI this morning. I mean, it was only in Cincinnati, but they knocked off a Super Bowl team with Mr. Trubisky, and probably taught their young quarterback, who was standing on the sidelines watching this thing, a couple of valuable lessons.
That
Number
he
one
wasn't
being you ain't hard. You're not who you think you are.
wait a while and you'll become who you want to be.
Yeah. We're right now. You are who we say you are.
And you're the rookie quarterback. It's not as much fun for rookie quarterbacks out there as it may look to appear to be. Rookie quarterbacks get the hello from that defensive line. It's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think of.
Shocking.
They applied their defense. They used an offense that was tailored to what Trubisky could do, and it worked out fine for them.
He delivered. In fact, this happens sometimes with quarterbacks who have a tough time, like he did with the Bears. He couldn't win for losing during his career there. He got the starting job over and over again and couldn't make it work for him.
Couldn't get it going.
And now here he is, showing everyone that he did learn something after all along the way.
And Pittsburgh is a town where if he is successful, if he has a couple of wins in a row and gets things going, they will fall in love with him, and he'll have all the support that he needs.
And of course, the press can ask Tomlin and the rest of the coaches, "What are you doing with Trubisky? I thought you were going with the young guy. Why did you make your mistake? Why did you make the choice? Why did you let us believe one thing and have another?" And he just said, "Look around the league. Did you see what happened to Trey Lance? See what a wonderful Sunday he had."
Yeah, there's no listen, the media and everybody else can say we're all bozos on this bus. We can go to camp and we can look around and we can say, well, we know what's going on and we know this and we know that, but there aren't a lot of people who can do this. They can know what's going on. They can see the player in the same light that the coach does. The coach knows what he has, man. He spends 23 hours a day looking at what he's got. Because if the coach fails, his job is on the line. If the coach fails, the guy writing about the team, generally his job is not on the line. He's just got to come up with a good load of crap. The columnist or the whoever he is, the radio guy.
It's a strange reality, and we'll find out in Monday Night Football tonight how it affects the Seattle Seahawks. But it's a job that you have to do without learning how to do it. And the process of learning how to do it makes people think that you'll never be able to do it. And you're learning how to do it, and they want you to stop learning how and sit down and let somebody who already knows how to play that game take over the quarterback spot.
Right.
It's so frustrating. Nobody walks in and says, "Hey, I was made to do this. I'm going to play football. I'm a quarterback. Good luck."
Right. And very rarely do they bring somebody in who will help them teach that person how to become a better whatever. I mean, you have a coach, a quarterback's coach, or whatever position it is, and that person will lend you his faith, hope, and experience. But to really learn it, you got to be in game situations. You can't just walk out onto the field unless you're an extremely gifted athlete
That's
and
why
learn how to do it.
that's why I thought Kaepernick would get a job sooner or later because he's been there at the highest level.
Yeah, and you would think that somebody would say, geez, with a little fine tuning, this guy is going to be okay. So he must have, he probably just doesn't interview well, Michael. That's the only reason I could think of why he doesn't get a gig, is that he just doesn't. He's one of those people, like I am, that you go in for an interview and you just don't interview well.
I should have stopped talking, but I kept talking. That was the
Yeah,
problem.
it's the only reason I could think of why he wouldn't get a job. Can you?
You know who needs a quarterback this morning? A big team. Dallas Cowboys got a man out for 8 weeks. Dak Prescott.
Yeah, yeah, it's a shame because they just re-upped his deal, if I'm not mistaken, or put some kind of extension into force, and now he's
Well, you know,
injured. That
we see it every year that throwing hand going into the face mask of a defender, or in this case,
get
his
caught
hand.
up in there and ripping a thumb out. It's what happened to Russell Wilson last year.
Yep. It happened to Brady too.
It happened to Brady. It happens to almost all of them. I mean, it's a quick thing that you probably can't do anything to prevent because there's helmets and fingers and arms and legs flying all over the place. There's no way you can protect it. You can't make a rule unless you say nobody comes within 10 feet of the quarterback.
We're almost there.
Or yeah, I mean, we're certainly getting toward it. Or, you know. So tonight you have Monday Night Football here in the beautiful city of Seattle. The stadium all lit up in green last night. The Mariners are departing town, go out on a little road trip, and so the local media will have the Seahawks
All to
to talk
themselves.
about. And there's a lot of talk going around town.
Well, it's a transition year. Just can't help but be talking because all you're doing is guessing.
Well, I got to ask you, Mike, how you feel about this because I get a little bothered about it, really. I mean, I know that I talk a big talk all the time. The opposing player, he's not your player anymore. You got to boom, you got to do this, you got to do that. But the Seahawks strike me as a kind of a different case because really it was Russell Wilson that took this team to the promised land. It was Russell Wilson that put the first Super Bowl hardware, and I'm not talking about just an appearance, but a win on the in the office lobby. Was Russell Wilson who immediately had this town falling in love with him because he did something that nobody else could do. Win a Super Bowl here.
And the defense, the Legion of Boom was a big part of it in those days.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
preventers. They prevented everything.
yeah. He delivered this team. Him and Pete Carroll delivered this team to the promised land. Many had tried. Some had come close. Somebody had come, a few had come close to making it happen before. But the reality is, for one reason or the other, you want to blame the refs, you want to blame this, you want to blame that. The Seahawks couldn't deliver.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they figured out how to deliver. And it's like getting I don't know. It's like falling in love. I mean, the town went crazy.
They did fall in love.
They did it in the best possible place, the biggest media market. It was just a phenomenal occurrence for this city. Although I still contend it is nothing compared to what will happen if and when the Mariners win the World Series here.
Well, they're finding ways to win games, and that's wonderful to see such dramatic victories. But as to answer your question, I'm afraid Wilson, with all his wonderful contributions to Seattle sports, doesn't get anything because he's coming back to beat you. He's
Right.
coming back to beat you, and it's not personal; it's business. He's coming to beat you.
Right, and here's what I struggle with a little bit with this, Mike, is there's just a whole lot of people professing a whole lot of hate for
Oh,
Russell
really?
Wilson.
Oh, sure, of course.
Oh, we got to boo him. We got
They
to do
always hated him.
this. We got to do that. We got to show him. We got to burn his jersey. They had a pinata at a rally the other day in Kirkland that they were pounding on. Although I don't know if you ever seen a Seattle person pound on a pinata. It really is. It should be a reality show.
They're short of oh dear, yeah, the tentative Seattle thing.
Yeah, it really kind of, you look at it and you go, good God.
You're blindfolded and you don't know if the pinata is a Coug or a Husky, and you'll never know. And
Yeah, you just, you
take
don't
it to your
know.
grave.
So I've actually kind of, I've settled myself into the camp of, why are we going to boo this guy? Why do you want to boo him? I mean, you
And who
don't
do you
have
think
to
that's going to
applaud him.
motivate? Go ahead.
Say again?
I said, who do you think that's going to motivate?
Yeah, I mean, it just, it makes no sense to me. Maybe as I get older, I'm softening up in my old age.
Well, wait a second. Okay, you're older.
Thank you. I just, I just don't see the validity of a guy who took you to a place you'd never been before, was loyal to his team, was, probably would have stayed here had they wanted to keep him here. Probably could have worked out a deal to stay here, but they didn't want to keep him. They thought they could use their money in better places.
Well, in sports, here's what you do: you give him a standing O when he shows up, and then you beat him by 12 points. That's what you do.
Yeah,
You beat him by 12, but you say, "What a wonderful guy! I remember the wonderful times. Thanks for the
yeah.
good times."
I'm not sure they're even going to give him a standing ovation, which I think would be wrong. It's funny when Steelers come back, and I'll always, listen. I've had a taste for 10 years of what the Steelers do, and this is a class organization. When a player of some import to their franchise comes back after he's left as a free agent or was traded or whatever, the people at the Steelers video department, which are among some of the best I've ever seen, put together a tribute video.
There you go.
And when the guy takes the field, they roll a tribute video. And you can applaud it. You can sit there and say nothing. You could just, and I don't know if that's what they'll do for Russell Wilson tonight, but I think it would be the classy move.
It also diffuses everything. It says we're doing the right thing. Now let's beat them. We're doing the
Right.
right thing.
Exactly. He was a friend of ours. He's no longer a friend of ours.
He'll always be in the circle of recognition. He'll always be there.
Yeah. He'll always be in that thing, but to hate the guy, to see some of the level of hate that I've seen directed against Wilson, against his wife.
Well, these are the Trump years. What do you expect?
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
just
it is.
it's disheartening as a sports fan to see people who put this out there. Beat the guy. You want to, the best way to send him home, feeling bad that he didn't figure out a way to get a deal done with the Seahawks, is to beat him by 20.
And beat him
That's
with a
all.
rookie quarterback. Yeah, there you go. And chase him all around the backfield. You know what he's going to do. You know how he gets away. You know his tricks. You know which way he runs and which way he rolls. Be there when he does.
Right?
That you've been watching the film.
Yeah, prep for this guy. You should have plenty of film on him.
Yeah.
And if you don't, maybe somebody got pissed off and threw everything away, but I don't think that's the case. I think that the best way is not to boo this guy. He meant so much to this franchise. To me, the best thing you could do is lightly applaud him if they show a video like that. Thank you, Russell Wilson. And then go knock him on his ass.
Beat the crackers out of him.
Yeah. Go show him what he's missing. Go show him that, that life here is good, but it's not like that. Hundreds of people on Facebook. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to boom. I'm going to burn his jersey. I'm going to
Yeah. Cheap stuff.
Yeah,
That's the work. That's the work of a rookie fan.
yeah. I wish, you know what? I wish I could say that, Michael. But some of the names I'm seeing are people who've been there for a while, who are longtime fans, and I wish as I get older, I just grow more and more distasteful of hate. And listen, I've said on the radio a million times, I hate this guy, I hate that guy. I've tried to lighten up and not do that as much anymore. But every once in a while, it gets to you, and you go in that direction. And you'd like to see a softer, kinder, gentler. Maybe it's the times we're in right now.
It's partially that way, but the way teams change in one year. There's a good percentage of the players right now on the Seahawks that never played with Russell Wilson. Maybe have never met him. Maybe have never gone up against him. And their idea is very simple. We don't care who that guy is. And we don't care where he was last year. And we don't care that he was a Badger. You saw what happened to Badgers this weekend, didn't you?
It's very proudly so.
Man, that was a great game.
That was a game and a half, wasn't it?
I really like Jared Dickard. I really like the coach. I like his spirit. I like what he's done with the team. And I like the fact that those guys in a foreign situation that those Cougs were not accustomed to, they look like players and they came out to win.
He really walked into a horrible situation.
But look what happened.
The coach was trying to turn the players against the school for his own means, for his own support, because he was an idiot and just didn't want to get the stab. He didn't want to go quietly. If you don't want to get the stab, that's okay, but
out you go.
Don't encourage your kids not to do it. Don't try to turn your kids against the school. It's the biggest failing of a coach right there, is trying to, trying to turn your kids against the school for your own means.
And the only thing that was worse than that, Vinny, was the hiring of that coach without ever doing a background check to know what you were getting. He was obviously a troubled soul. They didn't determine that in their interview process. They hired the wrong guy. They paid him. They had a fight with him, and it was a national disgrace.
Well, it was another Mike Leach hiring.
They couged it.
Well, to be fair, listen, if you get a name coach that wants to come to Pullman, maybe you don't look as hard. You just go, wow, I'm glad I got somebody above high school level to wanna go up against, to want to play in the Pac-10.
Well, but the Pac-10 may be short-lived. We don't know where these guys are going to be playing in the future. They could be finding themselves up against a much better team and having the responsibilities of a new conference that's all coming in soon. And the teams that play on top are going to be the ones that you're going to be watching. Who's talking about the Huskies right now? The way they're talking about the Cougs. The Cougs got voted for the top 25. Did the Huskies?
Well, they haven't really. Who have they beaten?
St. Mary's School for Girls.
Yeah, the reality is, there's a buzz because you got a new coach and he seems to be a good coach. He seems to certainly have walked into it, what was another tough situation, and has, it appears, at least gotten everybody on the same page.
And he's
I
got a
don't know. I don't
quarterback.
know much about DeBoer, except that he came from Fresno State, and he seems to like to hurl the ball a little bit. Other than that, we won't know. He could be the next Don James. He could be the next Tyrone Willingham or Rick Neuheisel.
They've been on a run with more Neuheisels than they have Don James, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, they've had some tough times over there, and I would hope that they would get it straightened out. Uh, but I don't think any self-respecting Coug is going to go over there and say, "Gee, I hope this program gets better."
Well, we'll see if it did. We'll have first 4 or 5 games. We'll have a better idea what we're dealing with here.
Well, I hope that college football to me is so screwed up these days. It's so I wouldn't say it's unwatchable, but it's not as much fun as it used to be to me.
Why?
I don't like the transfer portal. I don't like I like what they represent, where you're giving the players some power, but it just seems like in their jolly old fashion, the NCAA has figured out a way to give people freedom and yet screw it up.
Well, they're not finished with it because the trouble with the NCAA is they're planning their own obsolescence. They're saying the world doesn't need us anymore. How long can we last? How long can we make half rules and half decisions and half?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A very good
How long?
point.
How long can we last?
Yeah, we have a lot of kids here that all of a sudden are showing up in private jets. We can't have that.
And with the fact that the portal shows how kids react to their coaches more than any other thing. The coaches in the program, if they figure they're not getting a square deal, out they go, and
Right.
I'm okay with that.
And I like the fact that the kids finally have some power. For years, it was, and you know how much I hated this, is that a coach could leave a school and be playing, coaching the next year. A player had to sit for a
Yeah.
season. The coach is going to have a lot more seasons of coaching than the player is going to have to play. And how they got away with that for so many years, it's upsetting.
Well, the NCAA was saying we're on the side of the coaches.
Yeah, well,
We're
of course.
we're with you, coach, because you're the one making the money. These kids, they're very talented. They're very interesting to watch, but they don't make any dough. So we're with you.
I think I'll feel a lot better when about the game when they get it straightened out, when the kids hold a little bit more power, and when they stop the charade of NCAA football not being a pro league, because it is a pro league. It's just that the players are younger. It's a farm system.
Well, yeah, but like double A and triple A, just because you're playing baseball at that level doesn't mean that you're a professional. Not yet, not in my book. And
Well, I think if you get paid, you're a professional, aren't you?
not if what you get paid is not enough to live on.
Uh,
It's like
yeah,
being
I
in
don't know,
radio.
Mikey.
You're
I
not
think
being
if
paid
you
enough
get
to work
paid,
it.
in my book, if you get paid to do it, if you get compensated for doing it, you're a professional and therefore are entitled to have that status of professional player.
Well, you can have the status of professional player, but you can't live on that income.
Well, and I think that's something that they're trying to fix. But yeah, you're right. I mean, for how many years has the system exploited not just baseball and football players, but all kinds of players, women's soccer players, who is this growing sport that the women can't get paid. Are just now starting to realize some percentage of what men make in the sport.
Men who can't win.
Yeah, or women's professional basketball players who are now once again, and I know we're running short on time here, but I do want to, before we leave our show today, recognize and talk about, at least in just one sentence or so, Sue Bird, who played her last game as a Seattle Storm player over the weekend. What a phenomenal thing for this city.
What's she going to do?
Maybe coach, maybe buy a team. Maybe, I mean, she probably has enough money to buy a team or become the face of some franchise or the WNBA itself. I mean, they packed that arena for games. They, they really, her and her wife have become a phenomena in this town.
Is that where they live? They both live in Seattle now?
Yeah, yeah. I think they live here and then they go to L.A. You know, and other places, but I think they're still based here. And I just think that Sue Bird has brought such a professionalism to her work here, such a legitimacy to women's basketball in not only here but in the country, and really has made people stand up and take notice. Now, I don't know if you want to say she's the greatest athlete to come out of Seattle. I don't know that you can put that particular qualifier on her right now. People that are smarter than me will look back on it and say, well, yeah, she look at what she did here and she did this and titles and MVPs and rookie of the year and this and that. But as far as popularity, as far as somebody who has contributed so much to their sport to help develop it, she's right up there with Ken Griffey Jr. and Edgar Martinez and Steve Largent and,
She's right up there with Larry Bird as far as basketball is concerned.
well, as far as basketball, but just solidifying her sport in this town. If it wasn't for Ken Griffey Jr., this town probably wouldn't have the Mariners. If it wasn't for, you know, Steve Largent kind of missed the boat on it, but there's a couple of different Seahawks you could point to and say, well, if it wasn't for them, this franchise may have gone out of town and not come back. The support wouldn't have been there.
And
But
Chuck Knox is one of them. As unreliable as his offense was, Chuck Knox was much loved here.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so there are people who were bigger than their team, and Sue Bird, I think, in many ways, is one of those people. People who were just bigger than their team and did so much because of their personality to be able to attract people, to get them to take a look at the sport, to work from a place that was behind most others in that particular sport and lift her teammates and her up to and over the level of what they were doing.
Plus, she had the gift of warm, welcoming, professional personality. It was easy to love Sue Bird. What did you not like about Sue Bird? What did she ever do that you didn't like? What how many times did she put the foot the wrong way or say the wrong thing or embarrass the team on the court or off? You see, she just had a gift.
I I think there was, the only incident that I could ever think about with Sue Bird where she, I think, used questionable judgment was the whole thing in the first year or two that she was here with Mitch Levy over at KJR and that whole thing about I'll pose nude or something like that. I mean, I think that was just, it was degrading for her more than anything else. You
She
know,
agreed to that.
yeah, she did a thing where I forget the whole mechanics of the deal, but it was something where she agreed that she would pose with no clothes on if certain a certain number or something was met with the storm, certain attendance number, something like that. I forget. It was a stupid bet. It was one of those things that I think a 5 year older Sue Bird never gets tricked into. It was exploitive on the part of Mitch Levy because it really did put her. It it denigrated her as a woman, and it denigrated her as an athlete. And it gave, I think, a lot of voice to those who say, well, this women's sports is nothing but a circus. Why don't they wear the Australian basketball uniforms? Uh,
Sounds like sports radio is the real circus.
yeah, yeah. No, it was. It was just one of those things where, it was cut the top off your car. That's what it was. It was the same kind of stupid stuff that I would do, or maybe even you would do, or some people would do.
I would cut the top off your car maybe, but it would take me a while. I mean, does it have to be done this afternoon?
No, please. Matter of fact, please, we discourage people from doing it. But they got past it. They figured it out. I don't think she was allowed to do any kind of promotions with Mitch or KJR, maybe ever again. Although I know that eventually they did some things because one of the guys at KJR was their play-by-play announcer for a bunch of years while I was gone. So other than that, and it did become a national incident. It wasn't just that it stayed here. It was like one of those local kind of scandals. Like somebody peeing on the electric fence or something like that. It made Sports Illustrated. It made people. But I think that somebody got a hold of Sue and talked to her and said, "No, you can't do this.
This is not what we're up against. This is not right. This is not what we want."
This is what we're fighting. This is what we're trying to stay away from."
And I know it's kind of cute and kind of risque and kind of funny, but at the same time, nope, no.
It's all funny till somebody takes out an eye, Michael.
Not me, and not her. I hope in her retirement that she finds something that she loves to do, so she
I
can do
think
it.
she will. I think she's got a beautiful. It seems that she has a really beautiful relationship with her wife, and I also believe that she will be a great spokesman for women's sports, for the kind of person who will be able to go out and talk to young girls and say, you can achieve this because I did it. And yeah, I had to go through some changes, as Buddy Miles used to sing, but it was worth it. I've
Dun, 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 dun,
Yeah,
dun, dun, dun.
there you go. See, Michael, we get the musical reference in every show. But it really did. I mean, hopefully she will be able to. She will take up that mantle and run with it and say you can do this and be inspirational to people. Or if she wants, she could go buy an island somewhere and be with her lovely wife. They'll be happy, and God bless America. That's what it's supposed to be about.
Well, maybe she'll be at the game tonight. Maybe she'll decide to drop by and see what happens with the return of Russell Wilson and the new look Seattle Seahawks.
It would not shock me if she raised the 12th flag tonight. I don't think they call it the 12th man anymore. I think it's now you have to be politically correct. It's 12th man to me, and that shouldn't include women. We're talking man as a species, not a sex.
Well, you never said. Okay, how are we supposed to know?
I can't keep track of it all.
Well, you know that there's 11 guys on the team. One more means 12, and there you go. You got your 12. but only 11 of them work. One of them just yells and stomps around and gets in the way. Get off the field. Get off the field.
You
I'll,
here, go there.
or I'll have Jack Lambert clear the area.
Exactly. And let me tell you something. Jack could clear an area quicker than you could.
And happy to do it. Happy as a clam to do it. No charge whatsoever.
You know, one of the coolest things that ever happened to me is when I heard Jack Lambert say, I was interviewing him with my partner back in Pittsburgh, and he had said he listened to the show and he thought I was funny and yada yada yada. And to hear Jack Lambert say that was like it was like pretty damn cool.
So you don't hate me or anything? No, I
Yeah,
like
because
it.
this is not a guy you want to hate you. You know, you want
No.
the guy to like you. Him and who was the other guy? Oh, Mean Joe Green.
Yeah, let's keep him happy. Let's keep him happy too.
Yeah, he was another guy that just came up and said, "Oh, I listen to you and Cookie, and how do you not hit that guy?"
Oh, I hit him.
So it was really cool. I mean, it was just one of those things that you, as a person who does this, sometimes you get starstruck, and Mean Joe Green and Jack Lambert certainly, and Bruno Sammartino were three guys I could just point to off the top of my head and say they even know to even think that they know my name is pretty damn cool.
And all three of them are happy today with the way the Steelers played.
I would think so. T.J. Watt, probably the only guy who
He tore that
wasn't
pec.
happy.
How
He
long is he
got
going to
hurt
be out?
yesterday.
6, 8 weeks, if not longer.
Yeah, he's an animal. That guy, man. He's one of the best players. He puts on a show every game. What are you going to do? All right, you want to take a stab at the score tonight?
27-10 Denver.
If I could find a pen, I'll even write it down, Michael.
I'll write it down.
Okay. Okay, Mikey says 27-10 Denver. I am going to go with, I said something to somebody the other day, and now I may go back on that. Um, I'm going to go with 21, 21-17 Denver.
Might be one of those games where, regardless of the score, it won't be that close.
Yeah, and, just for the heck of it, I'm going to take a stab at um,
Stab at what?
um, okay, 27-10. I got 21-17, and I'll just for the heck of it go out on a limb and say that Gino doesn't last the whole game. That's the headline. They pulled Gino in the second half.
They pull him. He's not injured. He's
Yeah, they pull him.
taken out of the game.
Or I'll just go. He says he's out of the game. Of course, you never know. Sometimes they'll just say the guy's injured, and just to not embarrass him.
Gino, go run to the clubhouse and get me my smokes.
Yeah, go get me a bag of pizza rolls and get back here. You know what, Mike? I hope that doesn't happen. I don't want to say anything to curse it or anything like that. I hope that the guy comes through, he wins a game, and is able to thrive and look at what he's done wrong and fix it. That's what I hope. I hope
And
that
it's possible. It's possible because this Denver operation is brand new. It's got a new scheme, a new coach, a new quarterback, new receivers. Everything's new.
anything is as we have learned in sports, Michael, and probably why we love it so much. Much unlike other places in life, just about anything is possible if the gods are with you.
Except for the Raiders to win. For some reason, they ain't going to win.
Yeah. Oh well. What are you gonna do? You can't have everything in life, Michael.
Can you have some Manischewitz, I wonder?
I think you can. You can certainly hope for the Lord to be willing and the creek to be rising, which hopefully will not happen, so that we can get together on Wednesday and rehash this game and our entire lives once again for an hour and change right here on
And we'll have
Mikey
some,
Vinnie Take on the World.
we'll have some Department of Justice returns on what Donald Trump is facing, and that'll be pleasurable. I'm rather
And
anticipate.
probably some insight to his not so secret trip to Washington, which we'll be able to share with you too. All right, Mikey. See you on Wednesday. Of course, go Seahawks and peace, love, Manischewitz, baby.
What a wine. See you, Ben.
See you, Mikey. Take care of yourself. Thank you all for listening as well. We will catch up with you tomorrow. No, Wednesday. Thank you. All right. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.